What's going on, everybody? Thank you for tuning into the first ever episode of Inside the Tide podcast, the show that's designed to explore unconventional parenting concepts and tools for holistic self improvement. I am Tyler. I am the show's host, and I'm so excited just to get into today's episode. We have on the show today Xiomara Gittens. She's a certified doula, she's a Reiki practitioner. She is a mother and she's a business owner, and she's also been battling lupus for the last decade or so. So she got a lot going on, wears a lot of hats, and she's somebody that I personally have learned a lot from over the last many years that we've known her. My wife, Haley, was diagnosed with lupus in 2015, which is how we connected. And since we've been in contact personally, we've just been able to learn so much from her as a person and professionally. And I really think listening to this episode, you're going to be able to take a lot of insight and a lot of strategies into your own life from her as well. She talks a lot about balancing motherhood with all of the things she has going on, and also how she loops her expertise in the many areas that she is an expert in into her parenting style as well. So lots to take away from this. I'm really excited for you guys to hear this. Please be sure to subscribe to the channel if you like the episode. Here we go. Xiomara, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for coming on. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Congratulations. I'm excited.
Yeah, thank you for the motivation and the help along the way to get here.
Yeah. It's fun. It's gonna be fun. And you have a very what's the word that I'm looking for? Like your purpose, like what your plan and where you want to go with it is something that I feel a lot of the community needs. So
Awesome. I
I'm
appreciate
excited.
that. Well, and it was funny too. I was thinking about before you came on today, just like how you've been around for so many phases of Haley and I's life and all the highs and lows. But it's crazy because we've only met in person one time, which I find pretty
I
mind blowing.
know. I see that all the time. Nobody ever believes it when I say that. Just in general, how me and Haley met, I'm like, it was off of blog basically, and then we met one time, but hey, that's the mutual energy there. Like, I love you guys, love where you're going. Like you said, the highs and the lows never stopped you for anything. You're always still finding a way to work your way up and do more. So, yeah.
Appreciate that. Yeah, it means a lot. Thank you for being here through it all as well.
Yeah, no problem.
I'm excited to get into the topics today and also what you're bringing to the table and your expertise. And I think the listeners could learn a lot from that. So if you wouldn't mind starting, just giving an overview of your background and who you are and your journey into all the things that you have going on right now, which I know is a lot of different things. So if you want to share that and kind of give the overview of that, it'd be appreciated.
Yes, so my name is Xiomara, or Seal for short. I don't even know where to start. Well, I guess I could start with my journey, and everything that I do comes from my healing journey, which is how I met Tyler and his wife, Haley. I have lupus, and going through all of the medications, the different doctors, and the emotional, the physical, the spiritual aspects of it. It really took me on a roller coaster, as you know. So I tried to take myself out of the modern day medicine world and went into of a more a holistic approach. So like diet changes, herbs, just meditation, yoga, all types of things, Reiki. It just led me into my own healing journey with practices that work for me. With that being said, a lot of times I got into it, I learned, and I was like, huh, I could probably use this and offer this as a service. So, the Reiki energy healing that I do, which deals with your chakras and unblocking your chakras, getting your mind, body, and spirit together as one, I received for myself. I loved it. I got trained and became Reiki master, started offering it as a service. As far as me being in the medical field, I was in nursing. With me being sick, in and out, having to stop a semester, start over, I wasn't able to continue on with school, and it kinda, like, put me in this depressive state. And then as again, with my healing journey and learning different things, I came across being a doula. It was actually my brother's ex-girlfriend. She was like, "Oh, you remind me so much of a doula. Like, you should be a doula." And I didn't know what it was. Like, I from even being in the medical field, I wanted to go into maternity. I wanted to go into pediatrics. I just love that avenue. And I would support friends or family because once you get a job or you go to school or you're anything within the medical field, everyone's calling you for questions. And so I would motivate, help, and support my friends and family. So when I actually look, I'm like, oh, this really is something that you could do as a profession, like it really exists. So I did the training and I became a doula, which is also personal because I had a very traumatic delivery and pregnancy experience having lupus, but at that time I didn't know that I had lupus. So all these things were going on. The after delivery and postpartum healing was very traumatic. So all of the things that I have dealt with personally and me trying to find healing or getting educated and, just becoming a better person from within myself, I took all of that and created my business. And now I do multiple things.
And I think what's so cool about it too is you have the personal experience, obviously, like you just shared, and the fact that pretty much everything that you do, you can directly relate to. And I know that there's a lot of professions and people out there that might practice certain things, but they don't really have like such a heart in the journey like you do, and a heart in the profession or the practices, whatever it might be. And I think that that's what's so cool about everything that you do, because it's not just random things that, you grasp at. Like, you really have a long journey with it and how it helped you, and it brings you into that, and makes you so much better of a like offerer of services because of it, by being able to have that personal experience. So I find that really cool.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it has its ups and downs to an extent because, like you said, I could relate to it. So, getting very personal sometimes, or sometimes I take on more because I have that. I just want to fix everything, or like, what can I do? And sometimes that can be taxing. But overall, it does make me appreciate what I do more because it's very personal. So it's like, I built my business. I always tell people you got to treat your business like your child. So if you're not a parent, you got to treat it as if, you were a parent, pour into it, find your passion in it, and, try to have fun. Everything is going to have its ups and downs. I truly do have a passion for what I do. And hopefully I just keep expanding and going further and, making it more.
Absolutely, yeah, and you're on the right track, and you got us rooting for you too. So keep it going.
Thank you. Thank you.
So you kind of touched on it a little bit just now too, but can you talk a little bit further about your experience at juggling the multiple things that you do have going on while also being a mother at the same time?
Whew, it's a lot. It is a lot. Originally, I guess I'm kind of used to it in a way. I was pregnant at 19, had my daughter at 20, and right after I had her that fall, she was born in the summer, I jumped right into school for nursing, but it wasn't the program, it was like prerequisites. So I always had to find that balance between school, working, and being a mom. With me having my own business now, it's still hard, but it's a little bit easier because I can try to carve out time if I want to, say I'm not going to take any clients. Because I want to do this or I want to do that. But at times, especially being a doula, which I'm on call currently right now, it can be a little bit difficult because, you never know when a client's going to call. I don't know how long it's going to be. I get home and, I need my rest and stuff too. So, what I try to do is I try to bring my daughter into my world as much as I can. So if we can't really, do all of the things or my availability isn't there because of my job or the things that I have to do, at least she can see and understand, which just with me being a Reiki practitioner, I brought her into that, got her into like crystals and healing and what your chakras are. And honestly, I can have my daughter sit at a vending table and she will tell you everything about my business, tell you about my products, tell you about what I do, and you'll really be able to understand. So I think for me, a part of juggling it with parenting is bringing her into that world a little bit because she's older now, she's 12, so she can understand, but she's still a kid. So sometimes kids, they never see, they just know their parents go to work or they're doing this or they have to do that. And it's like two different worlds, which it is, but there is a way to kind of bring them together so you still don't lose too much of that time if that makes sense. So that's a big part for me.
Absolutely, yeah, and you kinda hit on it too with just doing something that you're passionate about, and then being able to show a child as an adult and as a role model and somebody that they're looking up to that you're passionate about something and you're actually in it, your heart's in it, and it's not just, a 9 to 5 that you're going to and you try to
Yeah.
make it sound fun, like, that by default is gonna get kids more interested in those things, and like you said, she's interested in crystals and chakras and all that, and not just by default because you do it, it's because you really have a passion behind it, and I think that
Yeah.
that's the most important thing.
Yeah, yeah. And we try to, as much as I can, what I offer as a service, what I preach or educate my clients on, I try to live by that. It might not be consistently all the time because we're human, and I'm one to be very transparent as much as I can. So I'm big on journaling. Me and my best friend, we published our own journal on Amazon, but we're quick to say, sometimes we don't even do it every day. Like we promote it, it's therapeutic. One thing I learned from Haley, as a matter of fact, is healing isn't linear. That's the first time that I heard that, honestly. And it stuck with me ever since in saying that. And it's true. Like we're human, we have emotion. Life is always want to go up and down. It's always want to go up and down. So I try to live by what I preach, but I also am transparent to the fact that, okay, not everything is going to be perfect, even in being a parent. Like there's no rule book to that. So I try to balance as much as I can and, just live by and invite her into my world and vice versa, ask her about hers.
I feel like we're starting to see a shift too on like the public eye side of things as well. People, I
Mhm.
mean, there's still definitely the side that people are just kind of, notable and famous for different reasons, but the people that are really truthful that hey, everything's not perfect. Hey,
Yeah.
there's ups and downs, and I'm gonna be completely transparent with you. Are the ones that at least get like the most respect from me, and that I want to follow and know further about and learn from. So yeah, I think that's awesome. That's just the type of people that the world needs more of, and just more content needs to be created by people like that too.
Yeah, yeah. Accountability is a big word. Like it's an action, a word. It's so much. And I feel that's where the transparency comes in. You can't be transparent if you can't be honest and hold yourself accountable? So I try my best to.
For sure. As long as you're trying, that's all that matters.
Right, right.
Awesome. I appreciate you sharing that. And I want to circle back to the doula work a little bit further. If you wouldn't mind, for listeners that might not know what a doula is, might have heard the word, but not really sure about the details behind what a doula could offer, if you could share a little bit more about that, that would be awesome. And before you do that, too, I just want to commend you and give you some kudos because I know you necessarily weren't Haley and I's doula during Kalia's, which is my daughter's name, during her delivery and labor and pregnancy and all of that. But you did so much for Haley, and having you at her disposal and also her doula, which was in Hawaii, was super helpful. And you also walked me through the placenta encapsulation
Boy,
process.
dang it. You
Oh,
did. So,
man. Yeah.
congratulations. And what's so crazy? I just recently, before I get into that, I started training, like, people who want to do placenta encapsulation. So I literally just finally put the PowerPoint together. And I was thinking that, like, the people, because I've trained some of my friends and even you, I'm like, I should have done this a long time ago because this would have been so much easier, but you did it.
Yeah,
So
the way you presented it was, like, perfect. I've absolutely no complaints about it. So I'm sure the PowerPoint just levels it up even more.
thank you, thank you, I appreciate that. Yeah, the doula world is a world that I feel there's 2 things that now where I am, I think every person or just in general, the world should offer to where it could either be covered or you pay for, and I think it's a therapist, and then bringing a child, a doula, like, throughout the whole journey, like, those are if there's any advice I could give to people, that would be. And when it comes to my end, as far as being a doula is like an angel sent from the universe, honestly. We are support people, so we can support through any and all phases of pregnancy. So that goes from infertility, if you're trying to get pregnant, loss, so any type of loss, birth and, the process during your pregnancy. We could be there for C-sections, the delivery, there's postpartum doulas. I just recently found out even for adults, like outside of pregnancy, there are doulas for people who know that they're going to be transitioning as well. So, what I am predominantly, I am full spectrum, so I'm certified and I could go into any field of pregnancy, but my niche and my favorite is being a birth doula. So whether you are having a home birth, some people feel like midwives and doulas are for people who are birthing at home, but no, it's for any setting, like in a hospital setting as well. So I feel as though I'm the biggest help in the hospital. So we advocate, we support physically, mentally, spiritually by, affirmations. We teach and educate and help with what's called comfort measures that can help you prepare your body for labor, but also help you through the labor and comfort you. We're there just in general, to be able to cheer you up and give you that confidence to make you feel confident, make sure your voice is being heard as far as your birth preferences, being that person to be able to, again, like I said, advocate. Because as you know, when you go into labor, not just for the person who is having the child, but for the support person, whether it's their partner or a family member or a friend, it can be very taxing or mentally draining because it's just so much information. So, being there for the whole entire family. I'm a very big dad advocate as well. Like I love being there for mom and during, the whole pregnancy and educating, but I feel as though in general, a partner, not just dad, it's their experience too. It takes two. Mom brings baby earthside. Everybody wants to see the baby and it's about mom and baby, but there are so many things for the support person as well and the partner. Like dads can go through postpartum depression. There's so many things that happen or can happen in birth or just you getting there and seeing what your partner is going through, the pain, the labor, the delivery. Sometimes that can be traumatic because you'll never know or be able to experience that. So, yeah, it's pretty much like an overall support. We can do lactation as well, childbirth education, placenta encapsulation, which is something I do. There's just so many avenues that a doula can work in to help the process along for the family as a whole.
I am right there with you with the advocation for doulas because it was so helpful personally with us too. But just everything that doulas can do and can offer and can help with and support through is unrivaled. There's really nothing else that is more effective in the pregnancy through
Right.
postpartum process. And that was a big reason too that you had mentioned too about advocating and respecting birth plans and healthcare professionals. That was probably the number one reason that we had pursued a doula in the first place is because we've, as you know, kind of had quite experiences just with healthcare over the years, and we just wanted somebody to really know what we wanted, communicated, and for either of us or neither of us, I guess I should say, not to have to worry about that during that process. And that was huge. It was such a game changer. And there were multiple times Haley's labor was 36 hours and it was just crazy and all the ups and downs and so much going on with it. And to have her there helped me. I know you said like working with dads too. It was so helpful and I could personally advocate for that. So anybody listening that's on the fence about a doula, go for it.
Yes, for sure. And it's a lot of education that goes into it and it makes you once you it's like we can talk about it for you. I love hearing the dad's perspective or male perspective because sometimes it can just be a family member involved and might not necessarily be the partner. I've had some moms that don't have a significant other, so their family members played a role and it helped them understand too. And not only that, you learn a lot from the experience. So if there's anyone around you, friends, family, there's tips and that education just gets passed along and gets passed along. But so for a doula, I would say two things. Like I said, a therapist and a doula. Everyone should be assigned and given one.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I agree. Can you talk a little bit too, just about how being a doula has also affected your parenting approach? And if there's certain doula tips or things that you might use in your practice with clients that you've translated into your role as a parent too? I know a lot of it's kind of through the the pregnancy and postpartum process, but are there any specific things that you've been able to take away into your parenting journey as a whole?
Oh, yeah, of course. Expectations, get rid of them, because the same thing with birth, we always say birth plan, and that's what we were educated on. But now we try to shift the narrative and the language to say birth preferences, because that plan may not always go as planned, which is another reason why I advocate for being a doula. And that concept also goes into parenting. You can have a plan and have expectations, but things may not go that way. And now with me being a doula, it teaches me that time truly flies by. So noticing different things and just being able to, as a mother and having a daughter, see things differently. I'm a mom. I was young and I didn't have a doula. The things that I do for the family, or even for the individuals that come and don't have a partner, it kind of puts things into perspective as far as like, okay, cherishing this moment, education, advocation. A lot of people sometimes they're not good with speaking up per se. Like we're always going to be mama and papa bear and, protect our cubs. But in this light, it makes you, for me, look and kind of go microscopically into different areas as to where I can improve with that avocation. What can I teach my child from young so that she's able to understand? For example, being a doula, I had no clue about infant massage. I'm seeing it everywhere now on social media, like, taking your time just from when they're an infant, massaging them and kind of catering to them, their health and their mind, body, and spirit as a whole. That's something that I wouldn't have thought about. You know what I mean? Like if I didn't get introduced as a doula, some people, if I would have heard it besides me being in this field, I would have been like, why does a baby need a massage? Like that's just something, rich people probably do. Like, but it's something that's needed in general, and there's so many things that go into it. Another thing would be that it takes a village always, as being a parent, and it doesn't necessarily mean it has to be friends or family. Like the school, your neighbors, just in general as a community. It's very important to be open-minded to that and take in the resources or the help that you can get in general. I'm a very independent, it's like a good quality, it's a gift and a curse. My dad has raised me to be so independent that just me growing up now and dating and having a partner, it's hard for me to let my guard down. So taking in that help, especially in the postpartum period, taking care of the mom or just the family, like I said, the little things make it better for you, because I'm a firm believer in a happy parent makes a happy child. So if you're not taking in, or you're taking on too much, your kid is going to receive that energy. They are very smart and they know more than what we think. Like even from a baby, we get frustrated sometimes, or just seeing that with breastfeeding, a baby can tell and may resist their mother's boob and not want to, if something's going on, if mom is tense, then they could feel it. So those little things made me look at the bigger picture as me being a parent now with my daughter who's 12. I can't go back and breastfeed her, obviously. Like I can't go back and do my postpartum period, obviously, but I can take into account some of those things as, she's being 12, like my energy, how I pour into myself, some of the decisions. Even then, I also believe in being honest with my kid, because like I said, we have so many expectations. We want things to go this way, or we want them to do this, or we expect that, or we expect this. And then it's like, some of the decisions are out of our control. Life is always going to change. We're always evolving. And some of the decisions that we make also affect our kids. So I'm not saying that if I say I want to move to Florida and my daughter doesn't want to move to Florida, I'm not going to move there. But just being able, as they're getting older, to like have those conversations. They're their own person, our decisions affect them ultimately too. So having I don't know the word that I'm looking for, but being able, the balance between being transparent with them and taking in their needs and, getting their opinion, or the time that we have, and like I said, our energy versus also being the parent and saying, okay, I still have some type of authority because you're a child. If that makes sense. I hope that makes sense.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it's just so cool too to look at the whole process. Obviously, we're more recently removed from the birthing process and have a younger child, obviously, but to look at it all the way through, and it makes you think too, for people that don't have access to those services or might have a traumatic birth and don't really learn about kind of the different ways to look at birthing and that whole process that comes with it and the things that you could learn from it, how it affects parenting as a whole going forward if you really, really
Mm.
take, and not to say, the mainstream medicine way is completely wrong. I'll be the first one to tell you that that's not true because we've in our journey had to utilize that and step
Right.
away from holistic at certain times. But
Right.
I just think that balance too, like you had said, for being able to utilize certain holistic ways and different ways of thinking and also utilizing the conventional ways of thinking is super important, and it just affects your entire journey as a parent, your child's entire life, the most important years of
Mhm.
their life. And yeah, it's really cool. It's really cool to see.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I totally agree with now. Before it was more, me being in the medical field and it's like, "Oh, I think that you need this." And then going on to the holistic field, and not everybody is going to operate and have the same way. I do think that we need both, to make it perfect. I do believe that sometimes those acute modern day medicine and just the education, the equipment, the things that, can help a person because like I said, I'm not the type of doula, which there are some who are specifically holistic, but I am the one that's pro-choice. So, if you don't think you have a high pain tolerance or you're okay with having a C-section or you want an epidural or something, I'm totally fine with that. It like you said, it's the bigger picture and looking around that which you could get educated on and how you can see things moving forward.
Absolutely. Completely agree. As far as another question related particularly to doula, your role as a doula, I guess I should say. Why would you say that mindfulness or being in charge of your thoughts and your emotions during pregnancy, during labor, during postpartum is so important? And are there any stories or anything that you could relate to that you've seen with your clients that you've kind of seen both ends of the spectrum of like not being in the right headspace and then being in the right headspace and how it's made a difference?
Well, one, mindfulness is a very important quality, characteristic, trait, whatever word you want to use in general, just for everybody. We manifest what we think and what we speak. And that is the biggest thing when it comes to pregnancy per se. So your body is going to know what to do when it comes time for pregnancy. Sometimes it doesn't work that way, and it might be, other things that are associated that we don't know. For instance, it could be something you might not know with the baby, something with the cord, or mom might have other stuff going on that may hinder that. But in general, just think of a yoga practice. Our body tenses up. A lot of times we lock our jaws, like we tense and clench our teeth, and we don't realize that. That tightness just in our jaw, everything is connected. For a mom, in addition to the jaw, a big thing is the pelvic floor. So your pelvic floor is your base. Like you're literally, you sit, you stand, you walk, your body mechanics is all based on your pelvic floor on top of you growing a human inside of your body. So when we tense up, when we work ourselves up, when we start thinking negative, start getting worried, you build stress. So sometimes, even when we think we're not doing it, just like I said, you might not even realize clenching your jaw, it's adding stress to the body and that manifests physically, which can delay or cause some issues into your body naturally relaxing to be able to take you through the birthing process, if that makes sense.
Definitely. And just to think too of how much that significantly affects 9 months of your life, and then obviously the labor and after, just to think of
Yeah.
what stress and what tension could do outside of birthing, and how, no wonder
It
there's so much disease and there's so much
right,
going on in the
exactly.
world. And there, it was funny too, because Haley my wife, and I, during the process of her labor, there, like I had said, it was 36 hours. It was super stressful. I'll definitely in another time get more into the details of how it all went. But there was one specific part that stood out the most, and she was 7 centimeters dilated, and she was stuck at that for quite a while. And she did not want to get induced. Her water broke over 24 hours ago. She started getting kind of like the fear mongering coming in from the doctors and the nurses that it's going to have to happen. And we were just all getting stressed out. But there came a point where, like, I think reached my capacity at that point and just got super, super stressed. And you could just, she could tell that I was getting there as much as I tried to stay calm during. And, the doula was there trying to help out as well. But she just kind of flipped on this mode, and Haley, like, she knows when she knows certain things, but she flipped it on, and she just sat there and looked at me, and she's like, just take a little rest. And I'm like, all right, fine, welcome. It's been almost 36 full hours. Like, I'll lay down. So I laid down, fell asleep for like an hour. And when I woke up, she just had this look on her face. It just was like, yeah, let's go. And she was like, go get the doctor. They're going to check me again. And she ended up being 10 centimeters, and she was ready to push. And we laugh and we call it her dilation meditation because
Right.
she sat
Wow.
there and for an hour, she just meditated and, did what she needed to and was really in control of her thoughts and anything negative that might have been coming in from the healthcare professionals or from me or from whatever. And just like that, she relaxed enough to dilate 3 more centimeters to be able to push. It was crazy. Just so cool to like see that happen and in person, in real life.
Yeah. And it's a real thing because, just the breath work alone, when you're conscious of your breathing and you take those slow, deep breaths and you let your body, untense and let the stress come down a little bit, the release of that oxytocin starts to naturally come. And that's the hormone you need to continue to get to where you need to as far as progression in labor in order for you to deliver. So that's awesome because a lot of times my clients that do just that, they're the ones that go through. I would never forget I had a couple and they had a hospital birth, but she wanted a natural birth. She wanted the hospital just because, if anything was to go wrong, she's already there and she wasn't opposed to any interventions if need be. But to make a long story short, they actually both were Reiki practitioners as well. So they knew about the chakras and breath work and did yoga and chiropractor and pelvic floor therapy and was just very conscious of the whole thing for the pregnancy. But when it came time to those moments where they felt stuck or, it was getting a little hard, her wife just brought her back to the tension of her breathing and just was like, "Clear the room. Nobody's in here. Just hear my voice." And started literally from the top, like relax your eyebrows and went all the way down to her feet just so she could relax. And you can literally, I use that now. Like I always say breath work, but like literally starting from the top down. I personally didn't think of that. And you just literally saw her relax. Like her eyebrows got low, her jaw got low, her shoulders got low, and it just went. And with that and just the meditation, I use what's called a doula deck. And there's like affirmations, meditations, different positions that you could do for pregnancy, birth, and postpartum. So we would do like the mindful moments, whatever the card said, and that just helped her progress. She didn't have to get any type of intervention, no epidural, no medications, anything. And she was able to birth naturally like she wanted to.
That's amazing. It's just the most magical thing to think of how significantly mindset and thoughts and going
Yeah.
within could affect you. It's awesome. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And I also wanted to circle back to your initial introduction. You had talked about struggling with lupus and being diagnosed, and just want to go back to that and get a little bit more of your story with it and how you managed it and how you were diagnosed or when you were diagnosed. I know you mentioned that you weren't even really sure about it when you had delivered your daughter. So yeah, if you could just talk a little bit about that and explain lupus a little bit too for those who might not know exactly what it is.
Yeah, yeah. If you do see me looking down, I do have a client laboring, so I'm just checking my phone to make sure she's not like, "Hey, I'm going to the hospital and I missed something."
All good. Yeah, no, that's the priority anyway.
But yeah, so with the lupus, it's literally when you look up the definition, sometimes they will reference it as a needle in a haystack. because it can mimic various diseases or illnesses, for better terminology. It is an autoimmune disease, and it's something that can affect your skin, something that could affect your body systemically, something that can be hereditary if family has it. It can be drug induced. So, certain types of drugs, unfortunately, can cause lupus because it's autoimmune. And then, even like insect bites, like you can get a bite or something, and again, it's autoimmune and it just kicks up. Um, Sometimes it can happen, people have issues with their kidneys or any organ in general. It literally can affect any part of your body at any time. And it is pretty tough to deal with in a way because, like you said, modern science is medication. And for some people, it works really great. Some people can keep the same medication, but it's a lot of trial and error because there's so many avenues where it can go and how it can affect you. And sometimes they might cross diagnose you with other illnesses. So for me personally, I don't really know for sure how I got lupus. I just know that when I was in the 8th grade, I had got a spider bite. I had a spider bite and a mosquito bite. We went to Panama. My family's from Panama, and I had a mosquito bite from, being over there in Central America. And I came home and I got a spider bite in September in school. After that, I don't know for sure if it was like a couple months or a year, but sometime after that, I started getting swelling in my left leg. So I was originally misdiagnosed and they thought it was lymphedema. As I got older, I started getting a little bit more symptoms, but I didn't really like pay attention to them because I knew I had lymphedema. I just had this swelling in my left leg. But I would get sick more often. I would, have like these weird experiences and hospitalizations where they didn't know what was going on because, again, that's the only thing they had me diagnosed with. But it wasn't until after I had my daughter, which she was born in 2011. So prior to me having her, my pregnancy was high risk. I swole, which is normal in pregnancy. You may get some swelling, especially edema in the lower extremities or swelling in the lower extremities. So for me, I had that. I was getting like dizzy. My placenta was anterior, meaning that it was in the front. So it caused the decreased fetal movement of me being able to feel my daughter. And then it just like I just didn't feel right. So my doctor, he knew that something was up. He knew I had lymphedema, but he just didn't feel right with the symptoms that I had. So they had me considered high risk. I had to go to maternal fetal medicine 3 times a week and see the doctors more often. So moving forward, after having my daughter and in the healing process, I was doing good initially. And then around 2013, 2014, I started getting sick. So I had pleurisy, which is fluid around the lung cavity. I was getting like upper respiratory infections. I was having like pain and swelling in my joints so much. They originally sent me to neurology and thought it was MS because, again, this is like a needle in a haystack. And it's hard sometimes for your blood work. Some people, it may light up and they look for what's called your ANA and a couple other lab tests. And for me, I was only having a few of them. My ANA originally wasn't coming up. So they didn't think it was lupus. But my primary care physician and my aunt, my dad's sister, always was like, "I feel like you have lupus. Like, I don't know, your symptoms, they come and go. They seem like, it's more of like this flare." But the specialists, the rheumatologists, they weren't, because the ANA, they didn't think that I didn't have enough of the symptoms to their liking. So anyway, I ended up passing out in 2014 and having these dizzy spells and so much. And I had a reaction like a year after that to hair dye. And right before I had that reaction to the hair dye, they did a test and my ANA came positive. And then it came positive again when I had that reaction to the hair dye because it caused a lupus flare. So in the moment of the flare, all of my labs were out of whack. But it was my nurse practitioner and my primary care physician who really pushed for it and would always run labs like repeat against what the rheumatologist was doing. And that's how I ended up getting officially diagnosed with, having lupus.
Man, yeah, it seems like it's just such a journey for everybody that does struggle with
Yeah.
it, and
Mhm.
definitely something. at some point in this podcast that I'll be sharing Haley's story, and hopefully we could have her on
Yeah.
as well too. But yeah, it's scary. It's especially when you don't know, and there it seems like there's always that period of people who just don't know, and it is such a difficult thing to really like put your finger on, and nobody could really know for sure what's going on. And yeah, that seems to be the common trend. But thank you for sharing. You're feeling well now, right? You've been feeling
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I haven't been on medication, knock on wood, since the reaction, which was 2016, 2017. I'm pretty sure it was the hair dye reaction because they put me on more steroids and a million other things. And I just was like over it and I took myself off. Now, like I said, I have like that median with modern day medicine. So if I was to go into a flare, or because I'm a doula, I had got COVID at one point, which put me in a lupus flare. Sometimes you need a steroid. I will, take the medication if I need it, or if I need an antibiotic for something, I would treat it to kind of prevent it. But yeah, honestly, I have my times. I still have flares, stress, especially the subconscious stress. But overall, I'm a lot better, with diet change, the mixture of when I know I need to take the medication versus not. I do a lot of herbal teas and just taking a lot of herbs daily in general, and obviously, exercise, but the mind is the biggest part.
and you might have also just covered it with those pieces of advice as well. But if you had to give just one tidbit of advice to a listener who might be struggling with some type of health condition, not necessarily lupus, really anything that they don't know what it is and it's just really affecting their daily life, like what would be that one piece of advice that you would give them to just get them through where they needed to get?
I would say being okay with the balance of both medical and the holistic. You truly need both. And it's okay, if one leans a little bit more, but just, you know, do your research on that and know that you absolutely have to have a balance.
Absolutely. And don't always, if I could add to that too, don't always give into the worst case scenario that's preached
Oh, yeah.
by doctors. And I think that that goes right along with finding that balance because you'll be
Mhm.
told by most people you know, and especially the ones that have the most respect in society, doctors and that type of just side of things is that like this is going to happen. Be scared. Be, you need to do this and don't always give into that, but also find the balance of like, don't be so stubborn that you don't, because I've
Right,
also seen, with my wife, what could happen if you go too far down that side. So I think that's a perfect piece of advice for anybody
right,
dealing with
right.
anything.
Yeah, yeah. And the other thing I would say is what Haley told me, healing isn't linear. It's always going to go up and down. So I think it ties into both, like, having that balance and don't go too much into either way, or what other people say. Because yeah, you definitely can get yourself on either end of the stick and being in a bad position and having to cross over at some point anyway. So I think just, that balance and having your mind open that not everybody's the same. Not everybody's situation is going to be the same.
Always different. Everybody's different for a reason.
Yep.
So I got one last question for you before we finish up, and something I like to ask all of my guests. If you could offer just one piece of advice to a listener or all the listeners, whether it's a mindset tip or a practical parenting tip, whatever it might be, what would you offer them and why? We might have already touched on some of these tips already, but anything that maybe you didn't cover.
My word for the last few years has been discernment. And it surprising that there's a lot of people who don't know what that means, and that's probably why the world is the way that it is. And in either whether you're a parent, not a parent, going through something, I think discernment is something to practice and try to really make a part of your daily life. So for those who don't know what discernment is, in a nutshell, it's using good judgment, basically. So always trying your best to use that good judgment for the better overall, like being conscious of the decisions that you make. I think that that is the best advice because Sometimes I feel like we either go off of what we hear or what we're told or what we're learned. And at other times, that gut feeling, we tend to go against a lot, like more than not. Society truly goes against intuition, or we say like, I felt it in my gut, or I knew that, or I should have done this. So I feel like that your own good judgment and practice and discernment is something for me that has helped me and has allowed me to grow a lot more, especially within these last few years.
Couldn't have asked for a better piece of advice.
It is. The 4 agreements and the 7 spiritual laws of success, like, those are, like, 2 of my favorite books that I have to go back to and I read over and over. And Vibrate Higher Daily by Layla, Delia. That's another one. Those 3 books, just the way that they bring in natural things of society or just teaching you that we're taught so much from birth. So we come into this world with things that aren't ours. And it takes a lot to unlearn it a lot of times. So you're never going to be perfect. The best thing you could do is, use your best judgment, make your choices, follow your intuition, which ultimately is discernment.
Absolutely. Well, there you have it. You got amazing advice and you got 3 good book recommendations. So you get a little
Oh, yeah,
bonus.
yeah, yeah, for it. I love them.
Awesome. Before we disconnect, is there anywhere people could find you? You want to share like some of your socials, website, whatever?
Yes, my website, I'm trying to work on that. I wanna redo it, but I am on Instagram at the Purple Purpose 28. That is my business page, which my personal page is linked to there too, and my link tree has everything on there. So my podcast link is on there, other areas that you could find me as far as my doula work, our journals that we created, everything is on my link tree. So at the Purple Purpose 28 on Instagram, and that'll take you to everything that you need to know.
Here we go. Check her out. She's amazing. Xiomara, thank you so much for being here. This was super fun and so fun to talk about all those things and
Mm.
go take care of your client.
Yes, thank you. I'm excited for you.
All
Thanks.
right. Much love, everybody. We'll see you next time.